I want to introduce Vidhu Shekhar, my good friend. Vidhu, welcome.
Hi, Avi. So glad. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah,
I will say this on the record. This is one of my favorite podcasts to come on. And I was very glad when you invited me back since the last time.
yeah. No, you're a repeat guest here, and we look forward to every time you're available to come talk to us. So thank you. And in by way of introduction, I know I've done this before, but Vidhu is a big shot in terms of AI. Come on, let me introduce you. I'm introducing you. He's on the speaking circuit. He works for Microsoft and is also now on the Space Force Association's management team. And you'll have to tell us more about that, we do. But leading voice in AI, of course, as a Microsoft um, employee or leader, you're at the forefront of AI. You wrote a book on AI and government 2 years ago before people even knew what was going on. So really, really thrilled to have you on, Vidhu. Anything else you want to add to your illustrious
No,
intro?
except that I have been extremely privileged to have sort of this front row seat, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you think about what has happened in the last couple of years, I certainly want to echo the privilege of being a Microsoft employee, right, and seeing Microsoft lead from the front uh,
Hmm.
in sort of this AI race of sorts, if you will. But I would also sort of add to it. I've been really privileged to work with some of the most pioneering government organizations at the state and local level as well as at the federal level in terms of responsible AI adoption, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm super excited that we have this opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about some very real world use cases, right? AI
Yeah.
is no longer a fantasy, it's no longer sci fi, it's no longer the scariness that Skynet has brought with it in the Terminator movies. We are seeing some very strong evidence of how work is changing and what the future of work looks like. And you mentioned briefly about the Space Force Association. Extremely lucky and privileged again to be selected by the leadership team at the Space Force Association. My role with them is focused on growing their chapter operations and helping streamline them. As you imagine, the U.S. Space Force, the first of its kind globally,
Hmm.
is focused on making sure that the country is in a place where space as well as space associated activities, satellites,
Yeah.
cybersecurity, all of that is secure. And of course, a big part of that is beyond just what our guardians do, is bringing industry in
Hmm.
and bringing academia in a way that brings that collaboration that we've seen so successfully happen in other parts of the Department of Defense, Department of Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, you name it, right? And so
Yeah.
the Space Force Association's goal is to foster that collaboration. And in my role as the Deputy Vice President of Chapter Operations, I will have the privilege of working with chapter leaders across the country, including our Space Force International chapter, to make sure that we are able to, one, bring sort of that consistency of approach across industry and Space Force, but also really bring the core innovations, especially innovations around AI. And we will talk a little bit about how AI data centers might be ending up in space as well.
Hmm. Well, I had the privilege of going to Mar-a-Lago in February of this year for the Space Tech and Nuclear Tech Conference. So why are we talking about space and nuclear when the topic says AI and GovTech, right? Let's connect those dots. And what
Yes.
I learned, Viru, is it's all connected, obviously. Why do you want to go to space? Because there's some minerals up there, one reason, that can power our nuclear facilities. And we're woefully behind our adversaries, right, in terms of nuclear energy. And we're starting to spin that up. It needs some natural resources, which we have here on Earth, but they're not plentiful like they are on the moon or Mars. So that's one connection. Plus, as you're trying to achieve, um, flight to Mars or other planets, you're trying to also develop solar power. You're developing battery technologies. All of that is coming into play with advanced AI helping us figure those puzzles out. But AI is
Mhm.
going to need the power, so you need to figure out nuclear energy. It's all connected. Tell me what you think.
Power. Power and
Yeah.
energy is, I think, the basis that we need to solve,
Hmm.
really, for us to unlock the full potential of AI and the path to being a quantum ready country, right?
Yeah.
And as we kind of look at it, and you've probably seen this over the last several months from a federal policy making, Project Stargate. The whole
Hmm.
notion around Project Stargate is, how do we create enough compute capacity in the country to lead the AI, race as it
Yeah.
relates to some of our other adversaries, if you will.
Yeah.
But really, the piece is, there's limited land, there's limited power consumption. And so, how do we expand in a way that helps us be sustainable? Very simple, right? There's a conversation around AI sustainability has come up multiple times. In fact, I was reading there's a Y Combinator startup by the name of Star Cloud, if I remember correctly, and they are trying to put data centers in space. And I
Hmm.
think that's a great idea. One, because, well, you don't need as much space, right? Physical space, right? So you're freeing up land.
Yeah.
But second, cooling costs and energy production and energy transmission costs are also key variables that are going to impact how fast we can build data centers.
Yeah.
And when you're in space, you have direct access to solar energy. Space, when there's no sunlight, cools down way faster, right? And so there is this perfect storm, if you will, of the intent to move towards space operations and sort of the momentum around AI and the need to really look at that as the next frontier.
All right. So having said all of that, let's bring it back down to earth for a second. Um, I think the government sector has gone through a discovery phase. You talked to leaders last year, right? And I'm talking about, mid-tier cities, not necessarily states or the feds. And around this time last year, there was the talk was, we've heard of AI, we've heard of GPT.
Yeah.
Then it became, yeah, but where legal says no, or IT says no. And then all of a sudden it became, oh, we better start moving on this. So the danger of that became then a lot of failed AI projects, right? Because you
Mhm.
you you don't just move and buy something that seems shiny. You need to have a policy and a strategy behind it. Lots of cool stuff out there. Every day there's a new product. And how do you win in this space then? As a government entity, you don't necessarily need to win the race. I think that there's a big race going on in terms of Microsoft and Grok and everyone else that has their own LLMs. But tell me how there's a direct line between developments happening at the global level and local government entities.
Very good question, and perhaps a very tough one for me to answer uh, in a straightforward way. But while I'll tell you, and you might remember this over the last couple of years, when I've been at forums like the National League of Cities or the National Association of Counties, or even the Government Finance Officers Association,
Hmm.
right? I get to interact with a wide cross section of governments, governments that serve a few thousand people to government that serve several million people, right? And the key piece for them have been, hey, vendors are just coming at us and
Hmm.
they are saying we have the next best thing since sliced bread, and this is why you need to use it.
Yeah.
And they want to use it, but they don't know where to start,
Yeah.
right? And from my perspective, the biggest piece is, as a government entity of any scale and any size, you are data stewards of your citizens' data.
Hmm.
And that is very critical. And when we see any random product, and you've probably seen this in the industry as well, several AI products are just AI wrappers. And what
Hmm.
I mean by that is, they are just a new UI shell over another model. One model may be an OpenAI model, an Anthropic model, a Mistral model, a Grok model, you name it, right?
Hmm.
But it's just a wrapper, a shell around that product. And we've seen things like meeting transcriptions, we've seen RFP generators, we've seen image generators, all sorts of things out there. But really, what governments need, and especially smaller governments, because they are, one, strapped for human resources,
Hmm.
and then second, they impact the lives of their residents in a much larger way. And what they need is something that can be put in the enterprise environment and works from day one,
Yeah.
and works in a way that has the responsible AI principles built into it. And to your question of how Microsoft is able to kind of lead in this, well, we have from the get go been very, very candid about responsible AI being built into all of our AI approach. And this predates generative AI, right?
Yeah.
Even when we were thinking about simple machine learning models, we wanted to make sure that we approached it from a lens of fairness, having privacy and security, safety and reliability built into it, all from a notion of having transparency and inclusiveness. But importantly, the most important principle for us was accountability. And that word accountability is synonymous with government operations,
Yeah.
right? And this is where we have seen the conversations we've been able to have is, let's not go and reinvent processes. Let's start with the right set of use policies. Oh, you're getting a new guest come on today?
I think so. Spider-Man's coming on. All right.
uh, so how you got to start with some really solid use policies.
Yeah.
Really focus on identifying where your processes are broken, because AI is not going to magically fix your process. And
We
this
might
is
break
where
it.
Microsoft's approach
Yeah.
has been: start with how you do work,
Hmm.
remove the drudgery from work before you think about going and reinventing your entire process maps.
Yeah. But that's the boring part, right? It's not exciting. What are you talking about, Vidhu? Like I want the thing that does the thing today, and I don't care about the infrastructure. I don't care about the grand strategy or the vision. I think that's where people are getting hung up. I mean, I had a conversation earlier this week
Mhm.
about, hey, we're doing some trial projects and pilots, and as we are 6 to 8 months down this road, now we're starting to think about, do we have the infrastructure? Should we be building our own server farms? Or what stack do we build on?